Go. Hi, Ivan. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm good in San Francisco right now, watching the sunset from my window. So,
Oh, it's a sunset time. I'm based in Bay Area, and then it's dark and kind of cloudy. Can't see the sunset.
hmm.
And then this session, we want to talk about Notion and as a product designer, how Ivan built a product that everyone loves and obsessed with. So I want to dig deeper into what are the secret sauce that Ivan had and so on. But before starting off, Ivan, maybe for those who don't know you yet, feel free to introduce yourself quickly.
Hi everyone, my name's Ivan. I'm the co-founder of Notion. And for those who don't know what Notion is, it's you can think as a combination of notes, documents, wiki, project management, all in one product. And for many teams and companies, Notion can be the only collaboration tool they need outside emails and Slack. That means replace something like Google Docs, Asana, Trello, and it's also great for personal use. Chelsea, I'm probably used for personally or for company. I'm not. You can replace something like Evernote and Todoist. So it's extremely flexible. You can almost mold it into any type of tool you want for yourself. We call it a Lego for software.
Awesome. And then what do you do day to day as a CEO right now? I bet you have millions of things to do.
Uh, Quite a few. Like right now, we're planning for 2021, so a lot of planning strategy. I'm also hands-on reviewing a lot of design and a lot of QAing the product. So mostly on my personal background is mostly on engineering and design side of things. But as the company grow, shift a lot more towards business and strategy and growing the company itself.
So you're pretty much still involved in the product development side, I assume.
Oh, that's correct. Yeah, it's we're not that big yet. Notion as a company is about 60, 70 people, so still fairly small, and
Which
everybody
is amazing.
very much hands-on, do everything. Yeah.
I'm gonna get into that portion, like how Notion is staying so small and nimble later in the question. But I want to start by asking the start of the Notion. I think it's quite interesting that you mentioned a couple of times in other interviews that you started on one idea, it didn't work, and then you restarted the company in Kyoto, Japan. So given that audience, like a lot of audience here today are coming from Japan, I would love to hear like why you chose Kyoto, Japan, when to restart the company.
Uh, it's a happy accident. So, like you mentioned, at one point the company wasn't doing well. We were a team of 4 or 5 people, and we're building on the wrong technical foundation. So it's about to, and everybody's realized we need to rebuild everything. So, and if we rebuild with the whole team, we're gonna run out of money. So me and my co-founder decided to just lay off everyone and shrink back to me and him. And it's a very sad moment. And now we look around like, let's go somewhere to we haven't been to distract ourselves a little bit, and that's Japan. And if you go on Airbnb to look for, uh, you know, Airbnb houses for 2 people to live some for a while and to work, Tokyo, Osaka, the houses, apartments are fairly small, while Kyoto has fairly large houses, and so that's why we end up at Kyoto. Turns out the pace of the city is also much slower, and we're just pretty much eating and biking around and just rebuilding Notion, which is um, quite interesting time in our life.
Interesting. I love my country. I'm originally from Japan, but you know when you're trying to choose a place that's outside of the United States, I don't think that Japan is the number one option for many people here in the US. So I was very curious, like if there's any tie with you and Japan before you started the Notion.
Oh, neither of us has been to Japan before. That's why we want to go. The
That's
culture is
good.
very interesting. It's a lot of focus on craft, a lot of focus on, um, you know, attention to details. making something great. So in a sense, actually inspire us to make a good product. Kyoto especially, right? It's a lot of craftsmen, a lot of hospitality. So it's a reflection. I hope it could be a reflection for how we build product, how we provide a service to our users.
That's interesting. I believe like your tradition of no shoes in the office is coming from Japan. That's just my assumption.
uh, I'm Asian, so Asian household tend to be no shoes. My co-founder is not Asian, but our first office was in a loft, live and work loft space. So we try to sort of treat it like a apartment. So we take off shoes when we get in and become a company tradition, and people get their slippers. So it's very comfortable. And the office vibe we're going after is kind of less like an office, more like an artist studio or a loft. So it's more relaxing. It's we try to avoid any white lights, top lights in the office, so it doesn't feel more cozy. Everything's more warmer, more orange or yellow shade of colors. So yeah, more relaxing, more chill. That's the vibe.
Nice. I don't know if that's the reflection to the product, but attention to detail, definitely I feel that in the product. Like that's something that people love about Notion. Like it's a small detail that you have in the Notion product that everyone kind of loves and like wouldn't expect from other services. So with that, I'm curious, like, is there any product feature that you're proud of that probably not many people know about?
There's some keyboard shortcut. A lot of people, if you press Command, if you're using a Mac, you can press Command Shift up and down. You can move a list up and down. I use that all the time. Another handy keyboard shortcut like Command Enter. So you can check and uncheck a to-do list. So one of the general principles to keep the UI very minimal and keep very friendly. So to help the user be in the flow, let it be writing something or writing your notes or check off your to-do list or planning your trip. The product should get out of the way and everything should be you with your content and your notes, your information, or your projects.
Got it. I never used the kind of shortcut, so maybe I will use that. I will try to use that after this talk. So going, oops.
Oh.
Your video is a little off.
Is it better?
Yeah, it's better. You're back again. Perfect. So the next question I had was, so how you started. So like the place was in Kyoto, Japan. And then when you started off, you made a quite change from the first product to Notion, right? And the first one is like a no-code tool for the people who's not a developers. But the Notion is like a completely different product, more of a information management kind of tool. And then back then, probably there are a bunch of information management capabilities tool by the powerhouse like a Google or Evernote. And I'm curious to hear like why you decided to start the idea of Notion, and like it's such a red ocean market. So if you have a thoughts on that one.
Yeah, actually we haven't changed. We changed the implementation of the product, but we haven't changed the idea, the mission of the company. It's very much about asking the question that what if everyone can shape the software they use every day? So one extreme of that implementation of the idea is let's just make everyone a developer and allow everybody to build their own software. Right. So that's the first iteration of what you describe as a no-code product. The realization is not everyone, even though if they could, they don't necessarily want to create their own software. They just want to have a better tool and to solve their everyday problem. So then in that case, let's look at what are the everyday tools that everybody uses every day. The most frequently are the Microsoft Office of the world, the productivity tools. So can we build a product can solve everyone's everyday problem, but within that hides the software tool building, the no code power inside the Microsoft Office. That has been the approach of Notion since the you can call it pivot in the early days. And so far, we're far from bringing all the computing software tool making power to everyone, but it's definitely a lot more powerful than a typical Google Docs or Evernote in terms of customizability and flexibility. And that ties into the computing no code side of the story. Right?
Interesting. So when you were building the product, is there any particular feature that like you kind of made sure that you will be better than the existing tools, so that like people will switch off to Notion?
I wasn't thinking that way. I would say the way we approach products fairly intuitively, just like fundamentally, we want to give people the power of customizing their own tool. Like I mentioned earlier, Lego, what's the Lego for software that everybody can use? And so we wasn't thinking a specific thing that Notion should do better. It's very much about how do we give people the building blocks they can do many of the things they want to do in the most customizable way they can, without coding.
I see. So like the way that you expected people to use Notion is similar to how we do now? Like, is there any surprising use case that you didn't expect people to use Notion for?
So Notion roughly can be used as a 4 different product, notes and document on one hand, Wiki is another one, project management is one, and the last one is just a general purpose database to organize things. So far, plenty of people use Notion for those 4 use cases on the consumer side or on the enterprise side. But on both consumer and enterprise side, there's some interesting use cases. For example, because Notion, it's a notes and document tool on the internet, and plenty of people use Notion as a lightweight web page publisher. And on the enterprise side, many companies publish their jobs page or publish their about page in Notion directly, or like a release note, what's new page, right? So they don't have to set up their blog; they can just use Notion directly without using a CMS or anything. Other ones, I'm amazed by how complex people's project management workflows are. A lot of because Notion essentially give people a database you can customize for any way to run your company and team. Some of the customer we talk about, it's set up very intricate workflows with their project management for their companies, and that has been eye-opening, and which also ties back to our mission of the software should mold into the human, into the company, not the other way around, right?
I see. Yeah, that's right. I think like how do you call that? Like a Notion Pro people that, there are consultants who are not working for Notion, but independently creating a bunch of templates and selling the Notion templates and stuff. Those people are quite creative. And then without it, it's very difficult to just, start from the white canvas. But with those people's help, it's getting much more and more easier to create a new way of workflow that fits to you. And then I think that's the Lego piece that you described.
Indeed, yeah. So it's just kind of like you design a Lego, now the community take the Lego to places that you never imagined, right? So there's Lego convention, and there's so many Notion users or teams share their template, their work setups on Reddit, on Twitter, and some people even selling it and making a great business for themselves.
That's true.
That's maybe I should quit my job and selling Notion templates.
Yeah, those are, and then the ability that freedom that Notion team given to those freelancers are quite fantastic. Like freelancers and also volunteers. like Japan has a big community of Notion fans,
Mhm.
and they do work for you guys, right? Like translation of the not the template, but translation of the manual. And
Translation of the guides and their books published in Japan. That's like you never heard of it in US. Like someone published a book about the SaaS product. That's if we change our UI, it might go out of date next month. But people still do that. And in Korea, there's school teach. I think in Japan too, there's classes, courses teaching about Notion. And
no way.
yeah, I'm surprised myself too. Last week we saw someone made it their tattoo about Notion logo on their arm.
Oh,
So it's like, what if we make our Notion logo better? Then it's pretty funny, right? In general, it's yeah, the community love is very surprising, and we're really grateful for it. Like for example, we launched in South Korea several months ago. A lot of translation effort and the local coordination effort are done by the Notion Pro and community themselves. Without that, we cannot be where we are today with our international user base and working from San Francisco. Right?
that's impressive. Like how do you create those fans, like a love from the users? Like as a CEO of the company and a co-founder of the company, what do you think that elements that made like create that much of like fans and enthusiasm from the users?
To be honest, I don't know. It's a lot of it's kind of more art, more luck and art than the science and tech. We have some hypothesis. It's first, it's just the product is very flexible. Going back to it's like Lego, you can customize to any workflow, your team, your personal need, and people have fun with Legos. When you make something new, people enjoy
fun.
using the product.
Yeah.
And so you want to share, oh, look at my castle, I built it. Then the person pushed to other people, right? And it's a lot of pride in the thing they created. And another thing is we care a lot about quality. So we rather do fewer things and do really, really well and put a lot of love, our own attention to detail into the product. And I think people feel that. Most of the products, we put a lot of thoughts behind. And hopefully that got translated into how people use the product every day. Right?
That's amazing. Like when you build a product, like you can do so much, but the outcome of it is something that unexpected, like your product. That's fantastic. So a little bit different angle, but so Notion has 3 different kind of user types that I can see. Correct me if I'm wrong, but like individual users who's doing for like their personal life stuff, like a cooking recipe and all this stuff, and then startups, SMBs who are creating like a manual, like a better way, more presentable way, and then enterprise customers. So those are the 3 that I kind of see that Notion would use. People would use Notion, but is that correct? First of all.
I think in a way that's sort of everyone, right? Personal users, SMB, startups,
That's
to
true.
enterprise. So we want Notion to be used for everyone, and that is everyone. Although for the past year and moving forward, we're really shifting our focus on enterprise, so larger customer, larger companies. First is just we really care about a tool to that solve people's problem, and arguably enterprise has largest problems among all the places that needs good customizable tools. So a company like Nike's, like McDonald's and Pixar, many of their team and department runs on Notion for fully customizable workflows. And we're really proud about that. When you see, you can get your next burger, maybe some part of that burger come from the tool we built to help streamline their workflow internally. That's a good feeling. Also on the personal side, when you walk into a coffee shop, see someone uses Notion just on their laptop, they might work somewhere too. And that's a really, really good feeling. Even though right now it's mostly COVID, so a lot of coffee shops are closed. But before that.
That's true. You probably see a lot more opportunities after the COVID that everyone uses Notion around you. But interesting, like enterprise. So when you're selling to enterprise customers, is it like going from like bottoms up, that like one of the employees loved Notion and started using it and expanded, or do you actually do sort of like traditional enterprise sales that goes kind of like top down?
It's a mix. I would say largely bottom up, but as the product gets better with more enterprise features ready to go, like single sign-on, SOC 2,
Mhm.
uh, and we're slowly building a brand for ourselves. A lot of company like going remote, going from COVID wants to adopt the next generation collaboration tool, let it be their CIO or CEO heard about Notion and just
Mhm.
then reach out to us, then that'll be more of top-down motion. So I would say it's mixed. Um, we just need to make sure the product's ready for everyone. For let it be small company to a large enterprise, they all have very different needs.
Right.
It's kind of tricky to balance all the needs at the same time, but we're trying our best.
What are the like some of the things that you have to implement for the enterprise customers? I believe that there are some people from a corporate world joining us today, and then curious to use Notion, but maybe not yet.
For example, right after COVID, we just made our collaboration feature a lot stronger. So people on the same page can notice which other people on the same document and click their avatar can just go to their places, and so that you people can almost use Notion in a team setting as a whiteboard tool.
Hmm.
Some other
Is it
example
an
work.
enterprise feature? Only
No,
enterprise?
it's a more of the collaboration feature that applies to both teams and enterprise.
Got it.
Something else we're working on right now is we're redesigning our sharing permission to allow really large company 1,000 plus, even maybe 10,000 plus, to entirely running on Notion for all their documents, wiki, and project management system. And what they need in terms of permission is quite different from a team of 20 people startup or 50
Right.
people startup. So yeah, that's very interesting. A hard design challenge for us too. And there's also the run-of-the-mill IT requirements like single sign-on, SCIM, SOC 2, all the acronyms
Right.
that we have to check the box.
All the security stuff that required
Yeah.
for the enterprise customers. So right now, like, can you say like a Notion's focus is a lot more enterprise customers than?
I would say so. Yeah, they're our business model. They pay the bill, and they have a large, complex
I love
problem.
your honesty.
So, yeah, yeah.
Nice. That's exciting time, like shifting towards individual user to enterprise customers. So let's see. There are like a bunch of questions coming up. I'm gonna try to get to that question from the audience towards the end, but also I want to hear a little bit about the team. So at the earlier in the session, you mentioned that the Notion is about like 60, 70 people, right? It's an extremely small team, and like given that what you guys do, and then how much people know about you guys, is that a like intentionally created the you created the smaller team, or what is the story there?
Somewhat intentionally, we have a company philosophy. It's always putting quality before quantity in most cases. So we have extremely high hiring bar. So hard to find great people, and if you do find them, they can do the work of many people. And so smaller teams, more agile. If the one person solve the problem, have a larger responsibility, that person could be solving the problem more holistically. So it's many benefit from having a small team, and we sort of discovered this accidentally. A funny thing is in the early days, when Notion is just a dozen or less than a couple of dozen people, we intentionally hide our LinkedIn website. We're trying not to set up one because our customer will see, okay, they trust this 500 people company, trust all their information onto a 20 people startup, and that's not very trustworthy. So we didn't create a LinkedIn page until we are 50 plus people in the company. Yeah.
I hope that perception would change soon, though. Like the larger the company, more credibility that the company has. It's not true, and then you are the proof of that one, right?
Well, yeah, I hope so too. Yeah, even although the companies grew almost 50% since COVID. So before we're 30 something people. Before COVID, we're 30 something people.
Oh
Now
wow.
we're 60, 70. So we doubled it. It's very painful that grow so much during half the company haven't met each other. So no, it's not easy.
And then I
I
think it's
imagine people
opposite
who
of.
have I
Sorry, go
imagine
ahead.
people have like 500 people company. That must be much, much harder than,
That's
a 60
true.
people company.
But I guess like a lot of startups are doing the opposite during COVID, right? Like some companies have to let go of people because the company is not doing well. But on the opposite side, you're growing double during COVID.
Well, yeah, I guess we're lucky that we're a tool that people need as company goes remote, and we're a
Mhm.
collaboration software. So yeah, and we're grateful about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing. So I'm curious, like if you can talk a little bit about it, like what are the like a portion of the team looks like engineering, product, sales, marketing, like what are the like majority group in the company?
A fairly even spread. We're about less than 20 on product and engineer. We don't have a product manager yet. So mostly engineer and designers, and we have a sizable community and support team to help answer our user questions and uh, you know uh, troubleshooting the difficulty from enterprises or just manage the community. Um, and so those are the two largest group in the company. And yeah,
So you mentioned like
and
you don't have a
actually
product
recently
manager yet.
we do not. Our first one gonna start in January 1st, but it's actually it's not very traditional product manager. So we'll see. Yeah, so far mostly engineer and designer. Actually, most Notion are built by less than half a dozen just straight up engineer designer hybrid people, and that gave us a lot of agility and velocity. Right? Yeah. We're sort of shaping the shape of a product team based on that.
I
So
see.
far.
And also I heard that there's like engineering resources inside of the marketing too, right? That's also interesting too.
What do you mean?
Like the as a marketing team, there's like a person who can code or
Oh
do.
yeah. So uh, our designer both on products and marketing side can code. So for example, we have two designer marketing team. They design their front landing page and they design their user flow. Then they just code it up themselves and without passing on to engineers. Uh, so that goes back to our principle of quality over quantity. And
Mhm.
fewer people who can do more so they can solve the problem more holistically. If something's too hard on engineer side, they can push to design or vice versa. And they can come up with original solution to something that cannot be solved by two people with separate roles before.
That's like a dream of marketing. I'm coming from the marketing background and having the resource of someone who can code in the team and implement, I think it's going to make the marketing campaign more faster and then better
Oh yeah,
quality.
much faster. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hard to find though. Those people are fewer.
Yeah, I believe so. That's that's a good to have a good brand as a company to attract good talent, right?
Mhm.
So, okay, the administration team is pushing that the session is going to end in
Okay.
5 minutes. So I want to kind of cover the question from the audience. Um, let's see. I think we covered that what exactly is Notion early on, but the second question, thanks for sharing great story. Notion seems to be a must-have app for people now. How would you describe the most hard thing after release? Did you experience any difficulties after the release? Hardest thing that you had?
Well, almost it never ends. I would say every even every 3 to 6 months. I would ever say every 6 months, Notion's different company, and you all have a brand new hardest thing to work on. Right, right
Mhm.
now, it's how do you scale a company post COVID? and we're no longer just a dozen people sitting in a little loft space. We're a proper company now. How do we do that? How do we delegate and divide the work? It's really hard, and so that's really hard right now. But good thing is we actually just hire several amazing leaders who has done this before. So we hired the head of people who she used to be a head of people at Gusto, who scaled the company from 100 to 1,000 people. We also hired the head of legal from Zendesk, a public company who has literally gone through the entire cycles from small company to IPO before. So all those people hopefully can help us navigating this growth phase of the company, right?
That's exciting. So the second question, how is TAM, total addressable market, can be calculated for this kind of services that can be used for many purposes? I would like to hear from both Notion and VC's point of view, if possible. I guess the evaluation can be benchmarked to some extent by comps such as Asana, Slack, but I'm curious about the methodology for formulate the potential market size in a logical or convincing way.
I would say there's no easy way to calculate it, or the short answer is the TAM is large. It's actually a tool everybody can use. On the personal side, you can use for notes and document, and not almost every enterprise company can and should use Notion. So and we can replace already, like I mentioned, the 4 different tools out there. Yeah, so it's a very large TAM. It's not something we specifically need to calculate, but we do need to focus. So currently we're really much focused on the product engineer design vertical, so we can make the best product, make the best document, project management, wiki tool for those young tech companies, and start from there, right?
Yeah, that's true. I think for the company like yours with such a large unknown TAM, the focus is the most important thing, like where to go for and how to choose that market that you're going to focus on. All right, I think the time's up, unfortunately. I still have a bunch of questions in front of me that I prepared for, but thank you so much, Ivan, for joining us. It was super fun to talk with you.
Likewise, we're going to launch Notion for Japan at some point, hopefully sometimes next year. And I'm really grateful for this country of users, and hopefully we'll translate to Notion Japanese, and you guys can use Notion.
That would be awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool. Bye.
Bye.